When you decide to grow wiser, fear loses its power over you. Wisdom isn't about knowing everything, but acting on what you know. Growth begins the moment you choose to learn from your own life. Growing wiser is not about having all the answers right now. It's about making choices that move you forward, even when things feel uncertain or tough. Have you ever stopped to ask yourself what it really takes to become wiser today? What if the key to growing wiser isn't found in someone else's advice, but in your own decisions? What's holding you back from making those choices that could change your life? This is not about waiting for the perfect moment or hoping for support. It's about what you decide to do right now, in this very moment, even if no one else understands or stands by you. If you want to change your path and become someone who learns, grows, and moves forward no matter the circumstances, then this message is for you. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear can change the way you grow wiser today. Now let's dive in. Number 1. Take full responsibility for every choice you make. It's a turning point in your life when you finally say, "This is on me." That's not a phrase of blame. That's a phrase of power. Because when you take full responsibility for every choice you make, you stop handing your life over to luck, to chance, to other people, to the government, to your upbringing, to your circumstances. You pull your life back into your own hands, and that's where it belongs. Most people spend years blaming someone or something. They talk about how they weren't given the right tools, or how someone else should have treated them better. They stay stuck in the same stories year after year because they're waiting for something outside of them to change. But if you want to grow wiser today, you must stop that. Responsibility is not a burden, it is your foundation for power. Every time you choose to take ownership of a mistake, a decision, a delay, or a failure, you build strength. That's how you start growing up on the inside. You don't grow wiser by reading quotes or hoping for inspiration. You grow wiser when you say, "I made that choice, and I can make a better one next time." Nobody forced you to stay where you are. Nobody tied your hands. Even if someone hurt you, even if life was unfair, the choice of what you do next is still yours, and that is a gift. Because if the next step is yours, then your life is yours. If you're tired of being stuck, take responsibility. If you're sick of the same results, take responsibility. If you want to stop repeating the same patterns, take responsibility. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what happened in the past. What matters is what you decide to do about it. Now, when you wake up in the morning, when you speak to others, when you sit alone with your thoughts, you are making decisions that shape who you are. And whether those decisions move you forward or keep you stuck is entirely up to you. There are people who carry pain from years ago. They carry betrayal, disappointment, loss, and yet they wake up one day and say, "This is the day I stop letting this pain make my decisions." That moment is not dramatic. It's quiet. It's internal, but it's powerful. It's the moment they take their power back. Responsibility means you stop waiting to be rescued. It means you stop thinking someone else has to fix you. It means you stop trying to control what you can't and start doing what you can. You can make better choices. You can learn new skills. You can walk away from what weakens you. You can stop lying to yourself about why you haven't changed. You can admit what you've been avoiding. You can tell the truth to yourself about your habits, your fears, your excuses, your distractions. These aren't small steps. These are bold steps. Because honesty with yourself is not easy, but it's necessary. When you stop hiding behind your past, your pain, your old stories, that's when the real growth begins. And growth doesn't come all at once. It's not a wave that washes over you. It's a decision you make every day. And the first step is always responsibility. People who grow wiser don't make fewer mistakes. They just stop blaming others for them. They learn, they adjust, they grow. You don't need permission to take your life seriously. You just need to make a decision. You can decide today that every word you speak and every action you take will be your choice. If you say you want to change, then change. Don't explain why it's hard. Of course it's hard. That's why it matters. Nobody becomes strong by doing what's easy. Nobody grows wiser by doing what's comfortable. Growth happens in the hard places. Responsibility turns struggle into strength. It turns chaos into clarity. It turns confusion into direction. Ask yourself, where have I given away my power? Is it in blaming others? In waiting for someone else to act first? In refusing to accept what happened and using it as an excuse? Then pull that power back. Take full responsibility, not for what others did, but for how you're responding to it now. If someone broke your trust, you're not responsible for that, but you are responsible for what you allow into your life today. If you were mistreated, you didn't cause it, but you are responsible for what kind of person you decide to become after that pain. Responsibility doesn't mean you ignore what happened. It means you stop letting it define you. It means you build strength from the parts of life that tried to break you. You get one life, one. And every day you spend blaming others is a day you could have been rebuilding. Every day you spend explaining why things are the way they are is a day you could have been changing them. If you want peace, if you want growth, if you want wisdom, it starts here with you, owning it, all of it. It doesn't have to feel good to be right. Some truths are uncomfortable. Some mistakes you made were serious. Some choices led you away from the life you wanted. But none of that means it's over. What matters now is what you do with what you've learned. Wisdom is not about knowing everything. It's about learning from everything. And the only way to learn is to stop blaming and start taking ownership. If you're stuck in a cycle, take responsibility for staying there. If you're not proud of your habits, take responsibility for continuing them. If you've been making excuses, take responsibility for the lies. Because once you take responsibility, you gain clarity. You stop waiting for a miracle and start becoming the miracle. You stop depending on other people's changes and start making your own. That's how change becomes lasting. That's how you grow wiser. People want results, but they don't always want the truth. And here's the truth. You can't change what you don't own. You can't fix what you keep blaming. You can't grow from what you keep running from. Face it, own it, change it. That's the path to wisdom, and it's yours to walk. Every decision you make today is shaping the life you will live tomorrow. So ask yourself, what kind of life do you want? Then take responsibility for creating it. Your choices create your results. Your results create your experience. Your experience shapes your wisdom. And it all begins with the one decision most people avoid taking full responsibility. It's not a quick fix. It's not always a happy moment, but it is a powerful one. And when you decide to live like that, when you decide to stop hiding, stop blaming, stop waiting, then you begin to grow wiser. Not someday, not when someone tells you to, but today, right now. Starting with one honest decision, one bold choice, one quiet, powerful moment of truth. Number 2, learn one hard truth and accept it fully today. There comes a day in every person's life when they have to face something they've been avoiding, not because they didn't know it, but because they didn't want to accept it. It could be about who they've become, what they've tolerated, how they've wasted time, or why they're not where they hope to be. The truth doesn't always scream at you. Sometimes it whispers. But you feel it deep. You feel it when you're alone, when you're quiet, when you're honest. And that's the moment where wisdom begins. Not when you run from it, but when you look at it and accept it as it is. Some people live their entire lives pretending they're happy, pretending they're trying, pretending they don't care, pretending it's not their fault. They create a picture that's easier to look at than the truth. But that picture is not real, and it keeps them stuck. To grow wiser, you must tear it down. You must learn the truth you've been avoiding and accept it with both hands. Because until you do, nothing changes. The truth might hurt. It might make you angry. It might make you uncomfortable. It might show you that you've been wasting time, chasing approval, avoiding responsibility, or living small. But you can't grow while hiding from reality. You grow when you meet it head on, even if it's messy, even if it's painful, even if it leaves you shaken. That is the price of wisdom. Sometimes the hardest truth to accept is that you've been the one standing in your way, not your background, not your boss, not your partner, not your friends. You, the way you think, the way you choose, the way you avoid. That's not a reason to feel shame. That's a reason to feel hope. Because if the problem is you, the solution can also be you. You can't change the world around you until you change what's going on inside you. Growth doesn't start with answers. It starts with truth. Truth you didn't want to face. Truth that makes you sit down and breathe deeply. Truth that pulls the mask off your own life and shows you what you didn't want to see. Accepting it doesn't mean you like it. It means you're ready to rise above it. It means you've decided that running doesn't work. Lying to yourself doesn't work. Waiting for better timing doesn't work. What works is owning it. All of it. You can't heal what you won't admit. You can't fix what you keep denying. You can't grow stronger by pretending to be fine. Everyone has something they don't want to see. A pattern they keep repeating. A truth they've buried under excuses. But if you want to live with strength, if you want clarity, if you want to walk forward with real direction, you must start with one solid truth. The one that hurts. The one that stops you in your tracks. The one that shows you where the problem really is. You might realize you've been lazy. You might realize you've been avoiding the work. You might realize you've been blaming others when it's you who hasn't stepped up. Or maybe you'll realize that a relationship is not healthy. That a job is killing your spirit. That a habit you thought was harmless is keeping you small. Whatever the truth is, you've known it somewhere deep inside. The problem is you've been fighting it instead of facing it. You don't need more motivation. You need truth. Truth that snaps you out of denial. Truth that pushes you to act. Truth that makes you stop making excuses and start doing what needs to be done. The truth is not your enemy. It is your beginning. It is your moment of clarity. It is your wake-up call. The day you stop fighting the truth is the day you start changing your life. You are not stuck because you're unlucky. You are stuck because you haven't accepted what needs to change. The only reason people stay where they are is because they refuse to see what's really going on. They keep themselves comfortable with distractions, with entertainment, with opinions that agree with them. But wisdom doesn't come from comfort. It comes from facing what's real. There is something in your life right now that needs to be faced. You know what it is. You've been pushing it aside. You've been hoping it would go away. You've been telling yourself it's not that bad. But it is. And it's time to stop pretending. If you want to grow wiser today, you must look that truth in the eye and say, I see you. And I accept you. Not because it feels good, but because it's right. Nobody can grow in the dark. You need light. And the truth is the light. Even when it reveals what you didn't want to see. That's what makes you strong. That's what builds your inner foundation. When you stop lying to yourself, you become clear. You become focused. You become free. You've spent enough time hoping things would change. You've spent enough time talking about potential. You've spent enough time dreaming. Now is the time to be real. What is the truth you've been hiding from? Name it, accept it. Let it burn if it has to, but don't run from it. Don't push it away. Let it in. That's your first real step toward wisdom. Accepting the truth doesn't mean you give up. It means you finally start. It means you build your life on what's real, not on what's easy. And when you do that, you will find something more valuable than comfort. You'll find clarity. You'll find strength. You'll find yourself standing taller, thinking clearer, and living with purpose. People often say they want answers, but the answers are already inside them. What's missing is the courage to face what they already know. There is something powerful that happens when you stop pretending. You take the weight off your shoulders. You clear the noise from your mind. You give yourself permission to change. Most people avoid this step because they think it makes them weak. But the opposite is true. Facing a hard truth makes you strong. Strong enough to change your habits. Strong enough to walk away from what's wrong. Strong enough to say enough is enough. The truth is not here to crush you. It's here to set a new standard for your life. You will never outgrow the truth. It is always the beginning of the next level. And if you want to reach it, you must accept the truth fully. Not halfway. Not just enough to feel better. But fully, completely, with your eyes open and your heart ready. This is the path of someone who wants to grow. This is what it means to live with wisdom. Not to know everything, not to always get it right, but to be honest enough to face the hard things and strong enough to do something about them. This is what sets you apart. This is what moves you forward. This is what keeps you from wasting one more day in denial. Number 3. Question your habits and replace one that weakens you. There's no bigger influence on your future than the things you do without thinking. Habits are the daily decisions you make automatically. They shape the way you feel, the way you think, the way you move through life. And if you're not careful, they can build a life that looks nothing like the one you actually want. Every single day you are repeating behaviors that are either strengthening you or holding you back. But you can't change what you don't examine. That's why today, if you want to grow wiser, you have to step back and ask yourself, what are the habits that are quietly dragging me down? You know the ones. They start as something small. Hitting snooze one more time. Grabbing your phone instead of focusing, saying yes when you meant no. Putting off the hard task until later, telling yourself it's fine just this once. But they grow. They become routine. And the more you repeat them, the more they shape your identity. You don't become who you want to be by accident. You become it by choosing better actions every day. Most people don't question their habits because habits feel normal. They feel familiar, but comfort is not a reason to keep something that's damaging your progress. If a habit is stealing your energy, your focus, your time, your confidence, then it needs to be removed. Not tomorrow. Not when life slows down. Right now, because every day you keep it as another day, it grows stronger. You have to become your own observer. You have to pause long enough to notice where your patterns are taking you. Ask yourself, is this behavior helping me grow or keeping me stuck? Is it building me up or slowly breaking me down? Does it move me closer to who I want to be or does it push me further away? Don't make excuses. Don't sugarcoat it. Tell the truth. Because the truth is where progress begins. There is always at least one habit that's working against you. Maybe it's staying up too late. Maybe it's avoiding discomfort. Maybe it's talking yourself out of starting. Maybe it's surrounding yourself with people who bring no value. Whatever it is, you already know what it is. You've felt the cost of it. You've seen how it affects your focus, your discipline, your self-respect. The reason it's hard to let go of is because it feels easier to keep it than to face the discomfort of changing it. But growth doesn't happen in ease. It happens in effort. You don't need to change everything. Start with one. One habit that weakens you, one behavior that drags you off course. Replace it with something better. Something small but intentional. If you waste your mornings, start waking up with purpose. If you numb your mind with distractions, start scheduling quiet time to think and plan. If you run from challenge, start facing one small task you've been putting off. The size doesn't matter. The direction does. Change happens when you stop arguing with reality. If something you do daily is not working, stop defending it. Stop saying it's not that bad. Start asking what it's costing you. Every habit you keep comes with a price. Maybe it's peace. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's energy. The question is, are you willing to keep paying for something that gives you nothing back? You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be honest. Changing a habit is not about flipping your life upside down overnight. It's about making one decision, then another, and every new decision weakens the grip of the old behavior. Over time, what once felt automatic becomes unacceptable, because your standard has changed. Your awareness has deepened. Your commitment has grown. Sometimes people think they need more motivation. What they really need is to clean out the behaviors that keep draining their drive. It's hard to stay consistent when your life is cluttered with habits that keep you distracted, tired, or frustrated. Simplify. Eliminate what doesn't serve your mission. Replace it with something that does. Your mind becomes clearer when your actions are aligned with your goals. This is not about punishment. It's about power. When you take control of your habits, you take control of your future. You no longer live at the mercy of impulse. You start living with purpose. That's what wisdom looks like. Not just knowing what's right, but doing it over and over, until it becomes who you are. Ask yourself, what would my life look like without this habit? What would my energy feel like? How much more time would I have? What kind of person would I become if I stopped doing what weakens me and started doing what strengthens me? Those questions are not just ideas. They are keys. They unlock a new level of discipline, clarity, and control. There's a lot of talk about changing your life, but your life is just the sum of what you do repeatedly. If you want to transform your future, you start by transforming your routine. Change one habit and change it completely. Don't play around with it. Don't go back and forth. Replace it and protect the new habit like your life depends on it. Because in many ways it does. The difference between who you are and who you want to be is found in your daily behavior. You can read books, listen to advice, plan your goals, but none of it will matter if you keep repeating what breaks your progress. Don't wait for a perfect day. Don't wait until you feel ready. Start where you are, with what you have, and commit to doing one thing differently. When you replace a weak habit with a strong one, it doesn't just change your results. It changes how you see yourself. You start to believe in your own ability to grow. You start to trust your decisions. You build a new kind of self-respect, not based on what you say, but based on what you do. And that is what changes everything. Today is the best day to choose better. Not because everything is perfect, but because you are awake enough to see what needs to change. The more you question your behaviors, the more aware you become. The more aware you are, the more power you have. Most people live unconsciously. They repeat yesterday because it's easier than building tomorrow. But that's not who you want to be. You want to be someone who lives with direction. Someone who sees the path and walks it. Someone who takes action even when it's uncomfortable. The truth is, you already know which habit needs to go. You already feel the weight of it. You already see the results it brings. You don't need permission to replace it. You just need to decide that today is the day you stop living under its control. Choose a better action. Stick with it. Let it become your new standard. And as you do, you will begin to notice something changing. Not just in your results, but in your mindset, your confidence, your sense of peace. Because when your actions reflect your values, you live with strength, you live with wisdom, and you live with purpose. Number 4. Write down one mistake and what it taught you. There's something powerful about looking at your own life and admitting where you went wrong, not to punish yourself, not to drown in guilt, but to learn. Because if you don't learn from it, you'll repeat it. And the truth is, most people do repeat it, not because they want to, but because they never took the time to understand what the mistake was trying to teach them. One of the wisest things you can do today is stop for a moment. Grab a pen and paper and write down one mistake that still sits with you. The kind that made you uncomfortable. The kind that disappointed you. The kind that showed you something about yourself you didn't want to see. There's a reason you remember it. Mistakes have a way of waking us up. They show us where our thinking was off. They show us what we weren't ready to face. They expose gaps in our discipline, our judgment, our awareness. But those gaps can be filled if you're willing to look at them honestly, if you're willing to stop blaming the situation, or someone else, or the timing, and just take full ownership of the role you played. Writing it down makes it real. It takes the memory out of your head and puts it in front of your eyes. It stops being something vague and becomes something you can examine. You can step outside of it, like a lesson written on paper, and ask, what did this teach me about who I was at that moment? What part of me needed to grow? What belief did I carry that led to that choice? What truth was I ignoring? Don't make the mistake bigger than it is, but don't shrink it down either. Name it clearly. Be specific. If you were careless, say that. If you were afraid to speak up, admit that. If you were selfish, face it. If you were too trusting, recognize it. Wisdom begins with clarity, and clarity begins with the courage to call something what it is. When you write it down, you're not letting the mistake define you. You're giving yourself the gift of reflection. That's how maturity works. You look at what went wrong, and you stop pretending it didn't matter. The mistake itself is not your enemy. What damages your growth is what you choose to believe after the mistake. Some people take a mistake and turn it into shame. They say, I failed, so I must be a failure. That thinking is poison, because it keeps you stuck in the past. What you need to do is shift your focus from who you were to who you can become. A mistake is not a label, it's a signal. It's telling you where to strengthen your character, where to sharpen your awareness, where to become more thoughtful with your choices. When you look at your mistake, don't just focus on what happened. Focus on why it happened. What was the mindset behind the action? What were you avoiding? What did you overlook? What fear was leading you? There is always something deeper beneath the surface. And if you can see it, you can start to change it. You can start to make choices from a new place. That's how you evolve. Not just by moving on, but by learning the lesson that was waiting for you in that moment. You only grow wiser if you stop treating your past like a burden. Start treating it like a teacher. A mistake is feedback. It shows you what doesn't work. It shows you what values you neglected. It shows you what boundaries you crossed. And if you write it down and sit with it and think about it long enough, you'll find that it holds an answer you've been looking for. Maybe you'll see that you've been repeating the same behavior in smaller ways. Maybe you'll notice a pattern you never noticed before. That awareness can save you years of frustration. Some people want to pretend they've never messed up. They hide their mistakes. They act like everything they've done has been perfect. But you can't grow from what you hide. You can't fix what you won't admit. There's strength in saying, I got that wrong. Because once you say it, you free yourself from the weight of denial. You stop carrying around a version of yourself that isn't real. You become someone who owns their past and uses it to build a better future. Writing one mistake down is not about dwelling on it. It's about facing it. Most people run from the discomfort, but that discomfort is where the learning lives. That's where the truth is. And you can't grow stronger without facing the truth. Maybe you let someone down. Maybe you gave up on something too soon. Maybe you broke a promise. Maybe you didn't prepare when you should have. It doesn't matter what it is. What matters is what it showed you. Write that down too. What did it reveal? What will you do differently now? And remember, one honest lesson from a real mistake can change the way you live forever. It can make you slower to react and quicker to reflect. It can make you listen more and speak with more purpose. It can make you more careful with your time, your words, your relationships. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be someone who refuses to ignore the lessons life is offering you. There's no growth in denial. There's only repetition. And if you don't want to keep reliving the same disappointments, you have to become someone who pays attention. Someone who steps back and asks, where did I go wrong and what did I learn from it? That question alone can shift the way you live. Because the more lessons you collect, the more wisdom you carry into your next decision. You are not your mistake. You are the person who made it. And you are also the person who can learn from it, grow beyond it, and rise above it. But none of that happens unless you take the time to sit with it, write it out, and name what it taught you. That's not weakness. That's the definition of maturity. It's the mindset of someone who refuses to waste their experience. Someone who chooses to extract value from everything they go through. The best part is, this process doesn't take hours. It takes honesty. You take 5 minutes, write down the moment that didn't go right, and ask what you can take from it. If you do that consistently, you'll start to see your thinking shift. You'll stop beating yourself up and start building yourself up. You'll become more grounded, more aware, more prepared. That's what growth looks like in real time. Quiet decisions that lead to better thinking. One mistake, one reflection, one lesson. That's how wisdom is built. Not all at once, but piece by piece. And the more you face those pieces, the more complete you become. Number 5. Speak less today and listen with full attention. There's real power in choosing silence when everyone else is rushing to speak. In a world that rewards loud opinions and quick answers, it takes strength to pause and listen, not just hearing words, but actually paying attention to them. Not waiting for your turn to talk, but giving someone else the space to finish what they're trying to say. That's not something most people do. And that's exactly why it makes a difference when you choose to do it. Listening fully means being there, not somewhere else in your mind. Most people think they're listening, but they're just nodding while preparing their reply. You've seen it happen. You've done it too. It's when you're in a conversation and you realize you didn't catch the last thing the other person said. You were already forming your next thought. That habit stops you from learning. It stops you from connecting. It keeps you in your own bubble where you hear your own voice louder than anything else. You become wiser when you lower the volume of your own thoughts and raise your awareness of what's going on around you. When you speak less, you start to notice what you've been missing. People's expressions, the tone of their voice, the weight behind their words. That's where the truth lives, beneath the surface. You can't see that if you're always the one trying to lead the conversation. You see it by being fully present, without interruption, without judgment, without needing to correct or finish their sentences. Listening with full attention also shows respect. It says, I value what you're saying enough to stop everything else and focus. You give someone the gift of feeling heard. And when people feel heard, they open up. They speak more honestly. They let you into parts of their experience that they normally keep closed. That's when you really get to understand what people are going through. That's when you start to grow emotionally. Because wisdom isn't just about gathering facts. It's about understanding how people think, feel, and act. You can't read that in a book. You learn it through real moments of quiet observation. Every time you choose to listen instead of speak, you sharpen your ability to see beyond words. You become a better judge of character. You learn when someone's words don't match their energy. You hear what they're not saying. You pick up on hesitation, fear, confusion, frustration, and that kind of insight will serve you for the rest of your life. Whether you're leading a team, raising a family, or simply trying to be a better friend. When you slow down and stop filling space with your own voice, you also start to hear your own thoughts more clearly. Not the noise, not the rushing, but the deeper questions you've been avoiding. Sometimes you speak so much that you drown out your own inner voice. The one that's trying to tell you the truth. That still voice doesn't shout. It waits for silence. And if you give it space, it will guide you to better decisions. Speaking less also saves you from unnecessary conflict. Many arguments start because someone feels the need to respond too quickly. They react without thinking. They say something they later regret. But when you build the discipline to hold your tongue and just listen, you create space to respond with thought instead of emotion. You give yourself time to understand the situation more fully. You don't let your ego rush in and take control. That kind of discipline protects relationships. It builds trust. It keeps small misunderstandings from becoming major problems. People who talk less and listen deeply often gain more influence. Not because they dominate the conversation, but because they earn respect. Others see them as thoughtful, mature, grounded. When they do speak, their words carry more weight, because they've taken the time to listen first. Their advice feels more relevant. Their feedback feels more accurate. That's the power of listening. It strengthens your voice by teaching you when and how to use it. Another thing happens when you become the kind of person who truly listens. You start to understand things about yourself you never noticed before. The way you react, the emotions that come up when someone says something you disagree with, the discomfort you feel when there's a long pause. All of that is part of growing. You learn to sit with it. You learn to stay calm. You develop patience. And patience is one of the greatest signs of maturity. Try paying attention to your conversations today. Watch how often people interrupt. How often they switch topics without letting others finish. How often they bring everything back to themselves. Then decide not to be that person. Be the one who pauses. Be the one who says, "Tell me more." Be the one who isn't in a rush to be understood but is more focused on understanding. That shift in intention changes everything. Sometimes the most helpful thing you can do for someone is to just sit with them in silence and hear them out. You don't need to fix it. You don't need to analyze it. You don't need to offer advice. Just listen. That kind of presence is rare and it's remembered. People feel safe around those who listen without judgment. They trust them more. They open up. They show sides of themselves they usually hide. And you, in turn, get to see the real version of someone beyond the mask, beyond the surface. Listening doesn't cost you anything, but it gives you everything. It deepens your understanding. It improves your relationships. It keeps you from making assumptions. It makes you someone others want to be around. If you start practicing it today, you'll see your world shift. Conversations will become more meaningful. Arguments will become less frequent. And your ability to lead, influence, and support others will rise. Give people space to speak today. Let them finish their thought without rushing to correct or contribute. Watch their body language. Hear the emotion behind their words. Hold back your impulse to respond immediately. Let the moment breathe. Let the words sink in. Let the silence do some of the talking. Because in that space, something valuable happens. You start to feel what the other person is feeling. You step into their world, and that experience will teach you more than hours of speaking ever could. Be deliberate today. Speak only when it adds value. Speak when it uplifts. Speak when it's thoughtful. The rest of the time, just listen. Not half-heartedly. Fully. Eyes focused. Mind engaged. Heart open. That one shift in how you communicate can transform your personal growth. It sharpens your self-awareness. It raises your emotional intelligence. It makes you more compassionate. And all of that feeds into becoming a stronger, wiser human being. Number 6. Read something useful and apply it right now. One of the most important habits you can build for yourself is the discipline to read something useful and then do something with it. Not just reading to pass the time, not reading to impress someone with how much you know, but reading because you're looking for something real, something that can help you live better, think better, act better. That's where personal growth begins. It begins when you stop collecting information and start making use of it. A book won't change your life unless you take what it says and turn it into a new behavior. We're surrounded by more content than ever before. It's easy to scroll through quotes, flip through books, or listen to advice all day long. But it's not about how much you consume. It's about what you choose to apply. Just one useful idea, fully acted on, can move your life forward more than 100 theories that stay untouched. The value of wisdom is in the doing. When you read something and it sparks something in you, an urge to try, to shift, to get up and act, you've just discovered power. And you can either move with that energy or waste it. What separates the people who change from the ones who stay stuck isn't intelligence. It's follow-through. It's the person who picks up a book about time management and then actually adjusts how they schedule their day. It's the person who reads about communication and decides to try it in their next conversation. It's the one who reads about health and then gets up and prepares a better meal. These are small actions. They don't take brilliance. They take commitment. They take a decision. That today is the day you stop nodding and start doing. You might read something simple like plan your next day the night before. That sounds easy enough. But what happens? You agree, you highlight it. Maybe you even feel motivated, but then you don't do it. You wake up the next morning, still reacting to everything, still running behind. Not because the idea didn't work, but because you didn't put it into practice. That's what happens when learning stays in your head. The page helped, but only if you act. Reading something useful is a personal investment. You are giving your time, your attention, your focus to it. But if you stop there, it becomes a lost opportunity. The real investment is complete only when you do something with it. You read about discipline, and then you say no to the thing that wastes your time. You read about consistency and you show up today even when you don't feel like it. That's how reading becomes transformation. One sentence, one action, one choice. Repeat it often enough to change the direction of your life. Make it your rule that every time you come across something meaningful, you must ask yourself, how can I use this today? Not tomorrow, not next week. Today, use it in the way you talk to people. Use it in the way you organize your time. Use it in how you manage your thoughts. And the key here is not to wait until you feel ready. The key is to take a single step. Action builds clarity. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be engaged. You need to be active. There are people who read about fitness every day and never exercise. There are people who read about building wealth and never change their spending habits. The words are there, the knowledge is there, but the will to act is missing. And if that will is not developed, nothing changes. Your life stays where it is because your habits stay where they are. But when you apply even one lesson from what you read, something shifts. you start to feel capable. You start to trust yourself more. And that trust builds over time. Take a moment and think of the last thing you read that had potential to help you. Did you do anything with it? If not, go back to it now. Revisit that one page or sentence or idea that stood out to you and take a step. Build a small system around it. Try it for a week. See how it fits into your routine. And don't be afraid of failure. Trying something and failing is still forward movement. At least now you know what doesn't work. You've learned from experience, and experience is the best teacher. When you build the habit of applying what you read, you start to trust reading again. It stops feeling like an escape and starts becoming a tool for growth. You stop consuming passively and start learning actively. You start turning ideas into routines, and routines become your life. If you want to live better, read better. And if you want what you read to matter, do something with it today. There is a kind of energy that comes from immediate action. You read a line that tells you to fix something in your schedule, and before the page is closed, you go and adjust your calendar. That speed of application matters. The longer you wait, the weaker the motivation becomes. Inspiration fades fast, unless it's captured by movement. That's why you have to act while the idea is still alive in your mind, while it still feels important. Before it becomes just another forgotten note on a page. Not every book will give you life-changing advice, but most useful books will give you at least one small thing you can take with you. It could be an approach, a phrase, a mindset. Your job is to find it, hold on to it, and bring it into your behavior. That's how you make learning stick. That's how you make it real. By living it, by testing it, by adjusting it, until it fits your life. Make it a daily habit. Read one useful thing, not 10, not 5. One, then apply it. This forces you to slow down, to reflect, to ask, what will I do differently after reading this? And this also prevents overwhelm. Too much information can paralyze you. But one action that you can handle, one change, that's enough to start momentum. Use reading not just for information, but for transformation. Let the pages challenge you. Let them push you to try, to change, to grow. If you make this your way of life, you'll be ahead of the majority who only collect ideas without acting on them. You'll be the one who grows while others stay the same. Because you don't just read, you apply, you act, you move. That's how wisdom is earned. One useful thought at a time, one decision to act at a time. Number 7, stop blaming others and own your next move. Every time you point a finger, you give away your power. It might feel easier to say, it's someone else's fault. It might feel safer to believe that you're stuck because of what they did, but that way of thinking leaves you right where you are. It traps you. It keeps you small. The moment you stop blaming is the moment you begin to grow, because blame never solves a problem. It never moves you forward. It only delays what you need to do. You can't wait for someone to apologize before you take responsibility for your future. You can't hold your progress hostage to what someone else failed to do. You've got to look at your situation, face it honestly, and say, this is mine now. The truth is, most people waste years blaming others. They blame their parents for not raising them better. They blame the economy for their financial problems. They blame their boss for their lack of progress. They blame their partner, their friends, the world. But no matter how much blame you place, nothing changes until you do. The past may explain how you got here, but it will not decide where you go next. That's on you. You don't need to fix the past. You need to take full control of your next step. You may not be responsible for everything that's happened to you, but you are responsible for how you respond. That's your power. That's your freedom. You don't need someone else to fix it for you. You don't need permission to move forward. All you need is the willingness to take ownership. Real growth begins the moment you say, no more excuses, no more pointing fingers. I'm in charge of what happens next. That's maturity. That's strength. That's the beginning of change. It's easy to stay stuck in a cycle of frustration when you focus on what other people should have done. You build a story in your mind about how things could have been different, but that story doesn't help you. It only keeps you looking backward. It keeps you from doing what needs to be done right now. The future doesn't belong to the blamers. It belongs to the builders, to the ones who rise above their frustration and start taking real action. You might feel that someone let you down. That's real. You might feel that you didn't get the support you deserved. That's valid. But none of that takes away your ability to act now, to build your next step with what you have, to take one simple action and make a little progress. That's how you start reclaiming control. You stop waiting. You stop wishing. You start doing. One of the hardest things to accept is that nobody's coming to rescue you. Nobody owes you a better life. You owe that to yourself. And when you finally own your path, when you stop blaming and start choosing, everything begins to shift. You gain clarity. You gain energy. You gain the courage to try again. Not because it's easy, but because it's yours to shape. That's what personal responsibility means. It means the power is back in your hands. You don't have to fix everything in a day, but you have to own your next step. What you choose to do when things go wrong says more about you than what went wrong in the first place. Do you let it define you, or do you learn from it and adjust? That choice is always yours, even in hard times, especially in hard times, because when everything feels out of your control, the one thing you still own is your response. Sometimes, the habit of blaming others runs deep. You don't even notice you're doing it, but it shows up when you complain more than you act. It shows up when you wait for someone to change before you take a step. It shows up when you focus on the unfair parts of life instead of what's possible. The more you blame, the more powerless you feel. But when you take ownership, you build power with every decision. Look at your day. Look at your habits. Look at where your time goes. If something's not working, don't look around for someone to fault. Look inward. Ask yourself what you can do better. Ask what you've been avoiding. Ask where you've been letting frustration replace responsibility. Then make a change. Even a small one. Especially a small one. Because change doesn't need to be dramatic. It needs to be yours. When you stop blaming, you stop waiting. You stop looking for perfect circumstances and start working with what you've got. That's when things begin to shift. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Because you took the wheel. And once you do that, you realize that growth was never out of reach. It was always waiting on your decision. The blame game keeps you in the past. It holds you in a loop of bitterness. But taking responsibility sets you free. It doesn't mean you take on guilt or shame. It means you take ownership of what you can do next. That's a powerful shift. And it's one of the most important decisions you'll ever make. Because once you make it, nobody can stop you from moving forward. There's a kind of peace that comes from ownership. Not a passive peace, but a grounded one. You stop needing validation. You stop needing others to carry your weight. You carry your own. And that weight makes you stronger. It builds your resilience. It prepares you for what's next. You become someone who doesn't wait for change but creates it. Every day you're faced with moments where you can choose blame or responsibility. Someone speaks to you in the wrong tone. A plan doesn't go as expected. A door closes. You can either blame or adjust. One of those paths drains your energy. The other builds your power. Choose the one that builds. Always choose the one that builds. And when you make that choice enough times, it becomes who you are. You become someone who takes full responsibility for their growth. Someone who doesn't stay stuck in stories of who hurt them or what went wrong. Someone who keeps moving forward no matter what. That's real maturity. That's real wisdom. It's not about ignoring the truth. It's about refusing to let it control your future. You face what happened. You feel what you need to feel. Then you act. You plan. You build. You grow. Because the next move is yours. And it always will be. Number 8. Reflect on your actions and change one today. It's not enough to keep moving through your days without looking back at how you've been living them. The human mind is built for awareness, not just movement. We don't grow just by doing. We grow by thinking deeply about what we've done and then having the strength to adjust. Every day gives you a chance to look at your actions and decide if they're truly leading you somewhere worthwhile. It's a simple idea, but most people avoid it. They stay too busy. They distract themselves. They convince themselves everything is fine, but progress doesn't happen in distraction. It happens in reflection. When you pause for a moment and look honestly at how you've been living, you give yourself a gift. You gain clarity. You gain insight. You see what's been helping you, and you see what's been hurting you. And once you see it clearly, you can no longer lie to yourself. You can't pretend that an unhelpful action is harmless. You can't keep doing the same thing every day and expecting something to change. If the action is weak, if it's draining you, if it's keeping you from who you want to be, then it's time to change it. Not tomorrow, not someday, today. The sooner you begin examining your choices, the sooner you start directing your life with intention. You're not a machine running on habits alone. You have the ability to evaluate. You have the power to adjust. One of the most responsible things you can do as a human being is to sit quietly with your own behavior and ask, is this helping me or holding me back? That one question can open the door to wisdom. Sometimes the answer will hurt. You'll realize that something you've been doing for years is no longer good for you. You'll feel a sense of discomfort, maybe even shame. That's normal, but you must not stop there. You must go further. You must ask yourself what needs to be done now that you know the truth. What small but meaningful change can you make today that puts you back on track? It doesn't have to be dramatic. It could be as simple as changing how you speak to someone you love. It could be stopping a habit that's been wasting your time. It could be starting a routine you've been putting off. The size of the change doesn't matter as much as the intention behind it. When your change is driven by honest reflection, it becomes powerful. Growth isn't something that shows up at your door. It's something you work toward by paying close attention to how you live. Not how others live. Not how the world sees you, but how you actually behave when no one is watching. What choices are you making when the pressure is off? What kind of person are you becoming through your daily actions? That's the truth that matters most. Some people avoid reflection because they're afraid of what they'll find. They're afraid of facing the gap between who they are and who they want to be. But ignoring that gap doesn't make it go away. It only grows wider. You can't change what you don't face. You can't improve what you won't admit. Real growth begins the moment you stop pretending and start observing with honesty. There is a kind of peace that comes from facing yourself fully. You no longer need to explain away your choices. You don't need to blame anyone or make excuses. You just look at what is and you decide what needs to be better. That's the power of reflection. It doesn't shame you. It shapes you. Take a moment to think about yesterday. Think about how you acted. What did you do well? Where did you fall short? What are you proud of? What would you rather forget? That's where the work begins. You identify the behavior that doesn't align with your values, and you commit to changing it. Even just one thing. You're not here to be perfect. You're here to improve. And one clear change, made with focus and discipline, can shift the course of your day and eventually your life. Most people think big change requires big action, but often the biggest changes start with a quiet decision, a choice you make alone, a shift in how you show up to your own life. It's not loud, it's not for show, but it matters deeply. Because that one change you choose today based on real reflection can compound over time and lead you somewhere better. There is wisdom in slowing down and taking a deeper look at how you operate. Maybe it's how you handle stress. Maybe it's how you talk to yourself in the mirror. Maybe it's how you approach your work, your health, or your goals. You don't need to overhaul everything, but you do need to be honest about something. Because growth doesn't come from pretending everything is fine. It comes from seeing clearly and acting boldly. You already know something you've been avoiding. A behavior that's not helping you. A reaction that keeps repeating. A decision that gets pushed off. You've felt it. You've seen the consequences. Today is a chance to stop just noticing and start correcting. You don't need to explain it to anyone. You don't need applause. You just need to own your behavior and redirect it with purpose. Every wise person you admire has learned to do this. They've trained themselves to review their actions regularly. They take notes on how they show up, They adjust without making excuses. They don't wait for things to go wrong before they change. They get ahead of the problem by looking inward. That's what you're being invited to do. To take responsibility for your behavior. Not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. You may think that one changed action today won't matter, but it will. It builds momentum. It builds trust in yourself. It's a message you send to your own mind. I'm not stuck, I'm growing. And when you start seeing yourself that way, everything begins to shift. You treat yourself with more respect. You make choices with more care. You build a stronger foundation for every decision that comes next. You are not bound to repeat yesterday's behavior. You are not trapped in the patterns of your past. You have the ability to reflect, to rethink, and to redirect. But you must choose it. You must take it seriously. Don't let your days go by without checking in with yourself. Don't wait until the damage is done to adjust. Today is enough. One moment of real reflection followed by one clear change can be the start of something far greater than you expect. That's what it means to grow wiser. You don't just gather information. You apply what you learn to your own life. You challenge your habits. You face your flaws. You do something different today than you did yesterday. And through that process, you build character. You build integrity. You build a life that reflects your values, not just your routines. Number 9. Face one fear that keeps you from growing. Fear has a way of holding people back more than any other force. It's not just a feeling. It's a wall between where you are and where you want to be. Fear can show up as hesitation, doubt, or even the voice inside that says, you're not ready or not good enough. Every person who has made progress in life has had to face fear head on. It is not about never feeling fear. It is about deciding that the fear will not stop you anymore. The first step is to identify that one fear that has been keeping you stuck. It might be fear of failure, fear of rejection, or fear of change. Sometimes it is a quiet fear that you barely recognize because it has been with you for so long. Other times it's loud and obvious. Either way, this fear controls your decisions more than you realize. It shapes your comfort zone, your limits, and your willingness to take risks. Once you recognize this fear, it's important to understand it fully. Fear often grows bigger in our minds because we avoid looking closely at it. We imagine the worst possible outcomes, but we rarely challenge those thoughts with facts. When you take the time to face your fear, to ask questions about it, you start to see it more clearly. What exactly are you afraid will happen? How likely is that to happen? What could you do if that fear did not stop you? Facing fear means stepping into discomfort. It means choosing to move forward even when your heart races and your mind screams to turn back. It's not easy. It's uncomfortable. But it's also where real growth lives. When you face fear directly, you show yourself that you are stronger than you believed. You prove that fear is not the boss of you. There is a moment when fear loses its power. That moment comes when you take action despite the fear. When you decide to try something new, or speak up, or take a step that feels risky. That action does not need to be perfect. It only needs to be real. It needs to be a choice that says, I will not let fear stop me anymore. Many people wait for fear to disappear before they act, but fear rarely goes away completely. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is action in spite of fear. Every time you face a fear and push through it, you build your courage muscle. You grow wiser about how to handle discomfort. You gain confidence because you have proof that you can handle the unknown. The key is to focus on one fear at a time. You don't need to tackle every fear all at once. Start small, but start deliberately. Choose the fear that feels most real or most blocking right now. Maybe it's a fear of speaking up in a meeting, or of asking for help, or of changing your routine. Whatever it is, give yourself permission to face it fully. Facing fear is a form of self-respect. It's saying to yourself, I deserve to live without being trapped by this. It's a way of honoring your potential and your dreams. Fear might whisper that you are not enough, but facing it loudly tells fear it's wrong. There is power in naming your fear aloud. When you speak it, you take away some of its mystery and hold on to more of your truth. You can say, I am afraid of failing, or I am afraid of being judged. This simple act makes fear less overwhelming and makes you stronger. Once you've named it, take a small step toward it. That step might be a conversation, a decision, or a new experience. It's a way to test reality and see that fear's predictions are often worse than what actually happens. You begin to rewrite your story about what you are capable of. Sometimes fear is tied to past experiences. You might have failed before or been rejected. Those memories can weigh heavily and convince you that repeating them is inevitable. But facing fear helps you separate the past from the present. It helps you realize that each moment is a new chance, not a repeat of old mistakes. Facing fear also connects you to your deeper purpose. When you refuse to let fear control your actions, you move closer to your goals. You start to live intentionally, choosing growth instead of comfort. Fear no longer decides your path, you do. Fear can trick you into thinking you are alone in your struggle, but almost everyone carries fears they must face. The difference is in how people respond. Those who grow wiser and stronger recognize fear as a signpost, not a stop sign. They see fear as an invitation to step up, not step back. Taking on fear does not mean you are reckless. It means you are thoughtful and brave. You consider the risks, but don't let those risks freeze you. You prepare as best you can, then move forward with determination. Fear has a way of shrinking your world. It keeps you from new experiences, relationships, and opportunities. But facing it expands your horizon. It shows you what is possible beyond the limits you have been living under. Your brain will try to protect you by warning you to stay safe. That's natural. But the truth is, safety sometimes comes from moving forward, not staying put. When you face fear, you create new safety inside yourself. You prove that you can handle uncertainty and come out stronger. Every action you take to face fear builds momentum. Momentum makes future fears easier to confront. It becomes a cycle of growth, where each victory over fear adds to your strength and wisdom. Fear also teaches important lessons. It shows you what matters to you. It reveals where your boundaries are and where your courage is waiting to grow. Facing fear gives you insight into your character and your desires. You don't need to erase fear completely. Instead, you need to learn how to live with it and not be ruled by it. That learning happens through action. Through facing that one fear you've been avoiding, you rewrite the story of who you are. Remember that every strong, wise person has had to face fear in their journey. It's not something you outgrow. It's something you master by confronting it. By choosing to face fear today, you take control of your life and open the door to greater growth. The moment you decide to meet fear instead of running from it, you plant a seed for confidence and resilience. Those qualities will serve you throughout your life. They become part of your foundation for success and peace. There is no perfect time to face fear. The best time is now. Waiting only strengthens fear's grip. Moving forward breaks it. You are capable of more than you know. Fear is only as powerful as you allow it to be. When you face your fear, you gain freedom. Freedom from hesitation, freedom from self-doubt, freedom to become the person you want to be. That freedom is priceless. The question is not if fear will come again. It will. But the question is how you respond each time. Choose today to respond with courage. Choose today to face the fear that has been holding you back and step into your growth. Number 10. Decide to grow even when no one supports you. Growth is often a lonely road. It's easy to move forward when people cheer you on. But true growth is tested when you decide to continue without applause or encouragement. Many people give up because they feel alone. They look around and see no support, no validation, no motivation from others. The truth is, the choice to grow is personal and does not depend on others' approval. Real growth happens because you make a decision inside yourself, not because others push you. When you decide to grow without support, you step into a powerful kind of independence. You stop waiting for permission to be better. You stop relying on outside voices to define your worth or potential. This decision requires courage and strength that often surprises you. It means looking at your goals and dreams and saying, I will pursue this even if nobody else understands. Lack of support can feel discouraging. It can make you doubt your path, but those moments are where determination is forged. Growth demands that you hold on to your vision, even when it feels like you are walking alone. When you embrace that solitude as part of the journey, you gain resilience that lasts. Support is not always visible. Sometimes it's missing because others cannot see your vision, or because your growth challenges their comfort. Not everyone will believe in your potential, but that doesn't mean your potential isn't real. You must become your own strongest supporter. You must speak words of encouragement to yourself. You must remind yourself daily why growth matters. Choosing to grow without support also means building discipline. When no one is there to check on you, no one is there to push you, you become responsible for your own progress. This responsibility can feel heavy, but it also empowers you. It puts you in control of your journey. You learn how to motivate yourself, how to keep moving when energy runs low, and how to celebrate small wins quietly but proudly. Growth without support teaches patience. It takes time to develop skills, habits, and mindset that others will eventually notice. Sometimes it might take years before your efforts are recognized. During this time, your belief in yourself is what keeps you going. That belief is a flame that cannot be extinguished by silence or skepticism from others. When you decide to grow without outside help, you begin to trust yourself in deeper ways. You listen to your own judgment and intuition more clearly. You learn to weigh advice wisely and discard negativity. You grow in confidence because your progress depends on your consistency, not on the approval of others. It's natural to want to share your dreams and receive encouragement. Everyone wants that, but waiting for support can also become a trap. It can make you pause when you should act. Growth requires you to be a leader for yourself first. You must set standards and expectations for your actions. You must hold yourself accountable. When you commit to growth despite a lack of support, you build character. You become more self-reliant and self-aware. You understand that external approval is temporary, but internal growth lasts. You discover that your worth is not dependent on others' opinions. This realization is freeing and makes you unstoppable. People who have achieved great things often describe times when they felt isolated. They had to push through moments of doubt and loneliness. Their success came not because everyone believed in them, but because they refused to give up. They decided that their growth mattered more than the approval they lacked. In times without support, your mindset is your greatest asset. A mindset focused on growth helps you see challenges as opportunities rather than barriers. It shifts your attention from what is missing to what you can create. When your mind is set on growth, obstacles become part of the process instead of reasons to quit. Deciding to grow alone also teaches humility. It reminds you that growth is not about fame or recognition, but about becoming a better version of yourself. You learn to value progress, even when it is quiet and unseen. That humility becomes a strength that helps you stay focused. This kind of growth strengthens your vision. When you know that no one else is supporting you, your vision becomes clearer and more important. It stops being just a dream and starts being a commitment. You realize that your purpose is bigger than the need for approval or validation. When support is missing, it is helpful to create your own environment of encouragement. This can be through journaling your progress, setting small goals, or finding books and resources that inspire you. These tools become your support system when people are not there. They remind you why growth is worth pursuing. Deciding to grow even without support is a test of faith in yourself. It is a commitment to believe in your abilities and your future. This faith acts as a foundation that you build on every day. Each step you take reinforces your trust in your path and your strength to continue. People who rely too much on others' support often find their motivation fades when the support disappears. Those who grow independently develop a motivation that does not depend on external circumstances. That motivation is steady and lasting because it comes from within. At times you may feel the urge to give up because of loneliness in your growth journey. That feeling is real, but it is also temporary. When you push past that urge, you grow stronger. You learn that discomfort and loneliness are part of growth, not signs to stop. Every day without support is a day where you practice resilience. It's a chance to prove to yourself that your commitment is real. When you keep going in these moments, You prepare yourself for bigger challenges that will come in the future. The decision to grow without support teaches you how to set boundaries too. You learn not to depend on negative or unsupportive people. You protect your energy and focus on what helps you grow. This awareness makes your growth environment healthier. Choosing to grow alone also means celebrating your own progress. You don't wait for a crowd to cheer. You recognize your efforts and give yourself credit. This habit builds your self-esteem and pushes you further. There is power in being the one who decides to grow no matter the situation. This power lies in your ability to control your actions and your mindset. It frees you from the limits that come when you depend on others' approval. When no one supports you, your growth becomes an act of courage. It shows that your dreams and goals mean enough to you to fight for them on your own. This courage plants seeds for future support because people are drawn to those who persevere. Your growth in silence will eventually make noise. When you succeed despite the lack of support, your story becomes a beacon for others. It shows that real growth is not about perfect conditions but about personal determination. Deciding to grow even without support means you trust your journey. You accept that it may be hard and lonely at times but worth every effort. This trust keeps you moving forward when others might step back. That trust also brings peace. You stop comparing yourself to others who have more support or seem to have an easier path. You focus on your own growth and honor your pace. Growth without support builds patience and persistence. You learn that success does not happen overnight, and that the road is sometimes long. Each day of effort adds up even if it feels invisible. Choosing growth in these conditions strengthens your identity. You become someone who acts regardless of external circumstances. You become someone who owns their life fully. This decision creates independence. It teaches you how to rely on your inner strength and wisdom. These qualities become your guide when the road is uncertain. When you decide to grow without support, you take control of your future. You shape your life by your actions, your mindset, and your dedication. This control is empowering beyond words. Every moment you choose growth alone is a moment you prove your resilience. You show yourself that nothing outside can stop you unless you allow it. The choice to grow despite lack of support is a powerful statement about who you are. It declares that your dreams are real and your effort will not be stopped by silence or doubt around you. This kind of growth builds a foundation for all other success. It prepares you to handle future obstacles with strength and grace. Remember that growth is your responsibility. No one else can do it for you. Deciding to grow even when no one supports you is one of the most courageous and wise choices you can make. That decision lights a path for others and shows that true growth comes from within.